Former Vice President Joe Biden's lead shrank in his firewall state of South Carolina, though he still holds an 8-point edge, according to an East Carolina University ECU poll released Friday. Biden gets support of 28% of likely South Carolina primary voters, followed by Senator Bernie Sanders with 20% and businessman Tom Steyer with 14%. No other candidate breaks double digits in the poll ahead of the February 29th primary in the Palmetto State. The poll comes as Biden leans on South Carolina to reverse his fortunes after fourth and fifth place showings in Iowa and New Hampshire, respectively, but his allies have started to fear the poor results could follow him there too. Biden's support dropped 9 points since the last ECU poll, which was conducted right before Iowa's caucuses. Meanwhile, Sanders, who garnered the most votes in each of the first two states, has surged in South Carolina from 14% earlier this month, surpassing Steyer for second place. Biden is still buoyed by strong support for black voters, 36% of whom favor him, while 20% favor Sanders. Another 17% back Steyer, who has invested heavily in winning over black support in the state, which is really insane. However, African Americans appear to be split among generational lines. Let's see this part. Black voters 55 years and older support Biden by a 40-point margin, but black voters age 54 and younger favor Sanders over the former vice president by a narrow margin of 29% to 26%. So the reason this is a big deal is because the way primaries are supposed to work is that Iowa, New Hampshire, the first couple of states matter much more than a place like, Georgia, somewhere that comes further down the line. And that's not a particular shot at Georgia, but just Super Tuesday and the ones after that, because depending on how you perform in those first two states or first three states, it pretty much dictates the response to you for the remainder of the race. So you could have someone who no one's ever heard of, or at least conventionally speaking, no one's heard of the mayor. But if he wins Iowa and then wins New Hampshire, he's going to have this big surge in other states. And when he loses Iowa, again, narrowly, because Sanders didn't, win it by some enormous margin, and then definitely loses New Hampshire as well, and he already is polling poorly in South Carolina, Buttigieg doesn't seem to have a chance of, victory. But with Biden, when he gets in fourth and fifth place in the first two states, all those people who were in South Carolina rooting for him to make his splash and whatnot are going to jump off the burning bridge so they don't go down with him. And that's part of our mentality. Unfortunately, we have this thing about winners. So this is just another likely sign of the fact that whoever wins the primary in South Carolina, whether it's Sanders or the mayor, it sure as hell is becoming, with each day, less likely to be Biden.